After groups are configured, they can be applied to roles. Click on Permissions in the configuration menu. Click on Roles. Roles define the capabilities of the users operating the NLSS gateway. The Roles screen allows roles to be created and configured. Note that if a gateway is managed via RMS, roles are created at the RMS level, not at the local site level. The roles are then transferred to the local gateways. The roles for the gateway are listed in the table at the top of the screen. The NLSS gateway has 4 predefined roles, 3 of which are available at the local level. Superuser is the root or primary user of the gateway. The superuser has full access to all menus and features in the NLSS web interface. An administrator can run and modify features under the configuration menu. Operator can run and modify camera features under the operations menu. These default roles cannot be edited or deleted. The Add button is grayed out in the roles table, as roles are not created from scratch, but are cloned from existing roles. Cloned roles are edited in the Details pane. These settings configure permissions for the functions of the NLSS Security Suite web interface. Roles are then applied to users to define their permissions in the web interface. Cloned roles can be customized in the Details tabs to meet the needs of the users to whom a role is applied. The RMS level also contains a master role to configure RMS settings. This role cannot be cloned, edited, deleted, or applied to users. The RMS training video discusses how roles are applied at that level. Since the superuser has full permissions, let's look at the details for this role, starting with the General tab. The General tab lists the role name, and a description. If a selected role is cloned, the parent role is also listed. The default roles have no parent role. The Clone Role button is discussed later in this video. Gateway modules are the top-level options selected from the main menu. Operations, Configuration, and Events. Permissions for these modules are set in this tab. The Modules tab contains 3 settings: View, Edit, Add, Delete. The availability of the setting depends on the function of the option. The Operations and Configuration items expand to reveal the menu options for each module. An entire module can be disabled or enabled by unclicking or checking View at the module level. All options for the Operations module can be enabled or disabled for a cloned role. Only views, sequences, and groups have an edit setting. Only views and sequences can be set to allow additions or deletions in the Operations module. As previously mentioned, cloned roles inherit the settings from the parent role. If a setting is not enabled for a parent, it cannot be added for the clone. For example, the default operator role does not have the view setting enabled for the configuration module. View for configuration cannot be enabled for clones of the operator role. If a role does not have access to cameras or other devices, a user can still see cameras and doors via events and reports, if events and reports have not been denied to that role. A system administrator with appropriate permissions must choose how to handle this situation by either permitting or denying access to events and reports for the particular role. Cameras, views, and sequences operate in a hierarchy. If cameras are disabled, then views and sequences are not available. If views are disabled, then sequences are not available. Note that if events and reports are denied in general, the user can still access events and reports on a per-device basis via the Device Menu pane. Note that if a group is to be applied to a role, the View checkbox must be selected for groups under the Operations module. The Configuration module expands 2 levels to reveal the menu options. The global configuration options can be enabled and disabled when the global item is expanded. All options under global configuration have view and edit selections. Additionally, add and delete options can be enabled or disabled for holidays, schedules, action, and event linkages. All items under video configuration have options for setting view, edit, add, and delete permissions. All items under access control also have options for setting view, edit, add, and delete permissions. All identity configuration items have options for setting view and edit permissions. Access levels, card and badge profiles, and cardholders also have options for setting add and delete permissions. View, edit, add and delete settings are available for all permission configuration options. Only view permission can be set for events. Gateway Groups lists the groups created in the Permissions Group screen. Notice the parking lot group created in the previous tutorial. This group is used later in this video to create a new role. A group is applied to a role by selecting the view setting for that group. If users with this role are allowed to modify a group's settings, then also select Edit for that group. The final tab in the Roles screen is the Gateway Functions. Here, permissions can be set to view operations menu functions for cameras, doors, cardholders, decoders, and user events and reports. From the General tab, a role can be cloned to create a role to be applied to users. Remember that when cloning a role, permissions only can be removed. Permissions not granted to the parent role cannot be added to the clone role. Select the appropriate role to clone from the roles table. Since the superuser role has all permissions enabled by default, it is a good starting point if the clone role needs permissions in both the operations and configuration modules. In this example, a parking lot security role is created to allow security personnel to monitor cameras covering the parking lot, plus control doors that provide building access from the parking lot. After a parent role is selected, click Clone Role in the Role Details pane. Enter a role name describing the function of the users to whom this role will be applied. Enter a description. Note that if multiple roles will have similar purposes, such as security personnel, the same description can be used. Then similar roles can be grouped together in the roles table by sorting by description. Save the changes in the General tab before continuing. This step adds the role to the roles table, and allows permissions to be set for the new role. The new role is added to the roles table. Open the Gateway Modules tab to begin configuring permissions for the new role. Expand the Operations module to access the Operations menu options. If a group is being used to configure permissions for a role, then module options for devices contained in the group must be deselected in the Gateway Modules tab. Otherwise, the selections in this tab override the group settings. The parking lot group contains specific cameras and doors. This group will be used to set permissions for the parking lot security role that is being created here. Therefore, cameras and doors must be deselected from the Operations module. Also, users with the parking lot security role do not need access to the other operations options. To simplify configuration, the View checkbox for the module can be deselected. All options under that module are then automatically deselected. However, the View checkbox for groups must be reselected to apply a group to this role. The parking lot security role does not need configuration access, so the configuration module options can be deselected. Uncheck the configuration box to deselect all of the options for that module. Note that if events and reports are denied in general, the user can still access events and reports on a per-device basis via the Device Mini pane. Next, a group is applied to the role in the Gateway Groups tab. Deselect the group settings that do not apply to parking lot security. Next, the gateway functions must be set. Parking lot security users need to be able to operate the cameras and doors assigned to the parking lot group. However, these users do not need access to cardholder, decoder and user operations. So those functions need to be deselected. Save the changes. The final step in setting permissions is applying the roles to users. Please return to the Permissions playlist to continue to the Users tutorial.